Thank you very much, Professor. I'm Wajiha Malik. I'm MIT alumni. So it was a little awakening for me that U.S. economy works by keeping the rich happy and the poor frightened. But I was just wondering that with capitalism defined as the world order of today, is opposite ever possible, like keeping the poor happy and rich a little bit frightened?
First of all, what we have today doesn't remotely resemble what's supposed to be capitalism. Capitalism is supposed to be what Jagdish Bhagwati was discussing in this abstract model he had in mind in the op-ed this morning, and what you study in neoclassical economics with free markets and entrepreneurial initiative and consumer choice, what Greenspan's talking about, but we don't have anything resembling that. I should say that even that one quote I gave about I can't even say it, oligopolistic competition and strategic integration, et cetera, it said that that's what we have, not the invisible hand of the market. Well, I don't know how many of you have ever read Wealth of Nations, the famous, which you're supposed to worship at. But the phrase invisible hand does appear in Wealth of Nations exactly once, and it's an argument against what's now called globalization. It's an argument against free movement of capital. Smith argues, a bad argument, that although it'll be very harmful to England, what he cared about, it'll be stopped by an invisible hand because merchants and manufacturers will have a home bias. They'll prefer to invest at home, so don't worry about it, even though it's dangerous. That's the one use of the term in Wealth of Nations. So what we have is nothing like capitalism. But can we have a system in which the poor benefit and the rich don't have to be made happy? Yeah, why not? I mean, it's not a law of nature that the economy, hence most of the society and the political system, are in the hands of high concentrations of capital, which are granted by the state. They're granted by state power, enormous rights. The rights that are granted to corporations are an incredible blow against classical liberalism and classical economics. I mean, Adam Smith would turn over in his grave to see what's been granted to these basically totalitarian systems. They have been basically granted the rights not only of persons, which is outlandish, but of pathological persons. They are required by law to be utterly pathological. And it's a legal requirement, deeply embedded in Anglo-American corporate law, that the managers of corporations must be brutal. They must be the kind of persons who we would lock up if they were flesh and blood. They are legally required to maximize profit and market share and not to do anything decent. The only exception, and this is a long history of corporate law, is they're allowed to do something decent if it's hypocritical. So if a pharmaceutical corporation wants to improve its image, by giving free drugs to people in Africa or something, it's allowed to do it as long as it's pure hypocrisy. That is, it's a way to improve your image to increase profit. Otherwise, it's legally culpable. You're much more likely to get thrown in jail for that than Enron-style corruption, because that's really the core of the system. Well, that's just it's not even legislation. These are just decisions by courts, which have become the core of law. Do we have to accept that? It's like saying people had to accept Bolshevism or fascism or other kinds of totalitarianism. Of course not.